All right, let's dive into a really fascinating homeopathic remedy, Abies canadensis. This is going to be your study guide where we go beyond just a list of symptoms. We're going to build a full, memorable picture of this remedy, and we're starting with a very, very strange sensation. You know, every remedy has its hook, right? That one central clue that kind of unlocks everything else. Well, for Abies canadensis, this is it. A gnawing, hungry, faint feeling at the epigastrium. It's this incredibly specific, almost desperate emptiness. If you can really picture that feeling, you're already halfway to understanding the whole remedy.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll meet the tree this remedy actually comes from. Then, we're going to dig deep into that gnawing hunger. After that, we'll uncover a really surprising connection to uterine health, build out the full patient profile, and then we'll wrap it all up with the key takeaways you'll definitely want to remember.
Okay, first things first. What exactly are we talking about when we say Abies canadensis? Where does this thing come from?
So this remedy comes from the hemlock spruce. It's this really hardy, strong evergreen tree you'll find in North America. The tincture is actually made from its fresh bark and young buds. And it's kind of ironic, isn't it? A remedy that comes from such a sturdy, steadfast tree is used for conditions of profound weakness. At its core, this remedy really zeroes in on two main areas, the stomach and the uterus. But here's the absolute key. Both of these problems usually spring from the same root cause, a really deep-seated weakness or debility that's tied right back to poor nutrition. That connection is everything. Okay, let's get the quick facts down for your notes. The common name is hemlock spruce. It's from the vegetable kingdom, obviously, and it's part of the conifer family. And the homeopath who first did the proving, where they test a substance to see what symptoms it brings out, was a Dr. Gatchell. Just the essentials to have locked in.
Now for the main event. Let's zoom in on the area where Abies canadensis is most famous, that crazy gnawing hunger. And what is going on with the stomach? The old homeopathic texts, the Materia Medicas, they have this amazing term for it, canine hunger. I mean, think about that. This isn't just, oh, I'm feeling a little peckish. No, this is a ravenous, almost wolf-like craving. It's one of the most powerful, defining features of this remedy. And here's the paradox, and this is where it gets really weird. The hunger is absolutely off the charts, but their digestive system is incredibly weak. So what happens? The person just overeats. They're trying desperately to fill that gnawing void, but their body just can't handle it. It's a total disconnect between what their mind is screaming for and what their stomach can actually process. And the cravings themselves. Wow. They tell you so much. We're not talking about light salads or easy-to-digest soups here. They're craving meat, pickles, turnips, all this coarse, heavy food. How strange is that? The body has a weak digestion, yet it's demanding the very things that are going to make it work harder and feel worse. That contradiction is a giant flashing sign pointing right to this remedy. Okay, this is a super important distinction you have to get right. You need to be able to tell this remedy apart from its close cousin, Abies nigra, the black spruce. And honestly, it's pretty simple if you just remember the core feeling. Abies canadensis is that gnawing, empty feeling. Abies nigra is the feeling of a lump, like a hard-boiled egg is just stuck in your stomach. Two different spruces, two totally different sensations.
So that whole theme of weakness we saw in the stomach, well, it doesn't just stop there. It actually extends to another key area for Abies canadensis, and that's the uterus. This quote from the old text is just incredibly descriptive. It's this feeling of profound weakness inside the uterus itself, that it's soft and feeble. I mean, for a pregnant woman, can you imagine how terrifying that would feel? It's a constant fear that the organ just lacks its basic strength, its tone. And this feeling of weakness can lead to real physical issues, like uterine displacement or prolapse. A key symptom to look for is a soreness right at the top of the uterus. And here's a super important clue. That soreness actually feels better with pressure. And notice the pattern? There it is again. These issues almost always show up right alongside that same general weakness and poor nutrition we saw with the stomach. Okay, so we've got our two main pillars, the stomach and the uterus. Now let's start putting all the pieces of this puzzle together to build a complete profile of the person who might need Abies canadensis. So when we step back and look at the whole person, what do we see? Well, they're often irritable, easily bothered. They feel cold, a deep chilliness. And they are just completely wiped out with this bone-deep exhaustion that makes them want to lie down all the time. It really paints a picture of someone, usually a woman, whose specific uterine issues are just one piece of a much larger state of total debility.
All right,
We have covered a ton of ground, so to wrap this up, let's just boil it all down to the absolute essentials. This is Abies canadensis in a nutshell.
Think of this as your final cheat sheet. It all starts in the stomach, with that ravenous canine hunger and those strange cravings, all because of a weak digestion. Then, that exact same feeling of weakness shows up in the uterus, that sensation of being soft and feeble. And then wrapping the whole thing up are the generals. The person is debilitated, chilly, and irritable. You see that common thread, right? The weakness is what ties this entire picture together.
So, we'll leave you with this to think about. The story of Abies canadensis is such a powerful reminder of how deeply connected our digestion is to our overall vitality. It really makes you wonder, how often does a problem that starts in our gut, the very core of how we get our nourishment, end up screaming for help in a completely different part of the body?